factor of production. Increase in fuel levy, it affects production because in economical world, movement of materials and human produces good goods. So by increasing the fuel by 7%, actually it will increase production of essential commodity, which will increase the prices. I also want to draw attention to clause 54 of VAT remittance. Before this is brought, the remittance was being done within 30 days. Now it has been reduced to 3 days, which means Department of HR in any department will have to bring additional staff, which will increase cost. The other clause 48 on IDF, which has been increased from 2.5 to 3%, will also affect the cost of the product because there will be increment in cost of manufacturing, which will also kill industrial product. I've also seen proposed amendments, which is not a subject of today's discussion, as they are increment in 16% on bread. There is also 16% on transport of sugar. There is also increment of 16% on financial services, which will bring a great impact. I want to summarize by saying any legislator who votes for this, you will have signed your political obituaries. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, none.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill contains an array of tax proposals that affect the different tax laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the intention is to give the government the legal force to collect taxes to finance the budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ordinarily, this bill has gone through all the legislative stages that every bill ought to go through, Mr. Speaker, until it became part of the public debate, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, taxation, all laws affecting taxation are generally emotive, polarizing, and highly political. Mr. Speaker, the debate on this bill has taken two dimensions. One is political. Mr. Speaker, the political dimension has been convoluted, highly polarized, full of propaganda, misinformation, misinterpretation, Mr. Speaker, and this is part of the norm of our Kenyan society, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Finance and Planning Committee, we were guided by reason, we were guided by the public interest, and Mr. Speaker, we were keen on the views of the Kenyan taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, who appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, proudly, I must admit, the bill as published, if we will not have effected any amendment, will have been difficult to implement, will have been difficult to internalize, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we as the members of the Finance and Planning Committee, Mr. Speaker, took time to listen and be guided by fairness and the principle of public participation, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we came up with a raft of amendments. And this amendment, Mr. Speaker, has done away with VAT on bread, VAT on transportation of sugar, VAT on financial services, VAT on increase on mobile, the 2.5% on vehicle, Mr. Speaker, the excise duty on edible oil, and many other changes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is this. This is a house of tradition. This is a deliberative house. And I want to urge my colleagues here. This bill as amended meets the expectation and the test of time, and I want to urge you, don't be intimidated. Pass this bill as amended, and it will add value to the taxpayers who have elected you. These other shenanigans, these other hula blues and propaganda, you have the right to address your concerns. But as elected representative of the people of Kenya, this bill as amended meets my expectation, and therefore I urge you to, and certainly you know, Professor Omelo, I do not belong to the list of the members.
Member for Taita.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important bill, the Financial Bill 2024 of the year 2024-2025. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I support the bill. And Mr. Speaker, may it be known that my vote is a yes to this bill. And so that those who are sending me very, very many and fake messages should stop. And now they know. Mr. Speaker, initially I was a bit worried after listening to my people about some of the issues that they were not comfortable with. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Committee of Finance for the good job that they did. The committee went and listened to Kenyans. They did a very good public participation, and they took the views of Kenyans. And when they brought this bill, Mr. Speaker, they incorporated the views of Kenyans. We can see the amendments, the proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker, which are good and are very considerate. Mr. Speaker, VAT on bread was a thorn on the flesh of Kenyans. And I'm so glad that the Finance Committee negated or deleted that bit on the finance bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the tax on vehicle as well was also a contentious issue in this country. But that one was also deleted in the bill, Mr. Speaker. That is also a win. Mr. Speaker, tax on mobile transactions was also something that Kenyans were talking about, and they were not comfortable with, Mr. Speaker. The committee did it justice to Kenyans as well, because that tax is no longer there. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill promotes local manufacturers, because when we exempt taxes on the local manufacturers, such that the ones that produce stuff like sanitary towels, diapers, and this stuff, Mr. Speaker, then we will be promoting the local manufacturers and therefore creating employment to many Kenyans, because this.
Thank you. You have finished your time. Peter Kaluma. Yes, Lelmengit. What's your point of order? And under what standing order?
The standing order. Honorable Mr. Speaker, I have an issue with the internet connection.
Pardon?
The Wi-Fi, the internet connection of this house. Mr. Speaker, the Wi-Fi is not functioning, and we need to communicate to the Gen Z out there, Mr. Speaker. We want to know what is happening out there and the reaction of the population. Please, Mr. Speaker, can we ask the clerks, the people responsible for the ICT, so that they can fix this menace?
The
Thank
clerks
you.
will take care of that. Kaluma.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to speak to this particular bill. Honorable Speaker, debate on finance bill is the most important debate in any democracy. In fact, the history of parliament is that the main reason as to why parliaments were established is that there should be no taxation without representation. So, Honorable Speaker, let me begin by clarifying that it is not President Ruto outside there who is taxing people. It is this parliament that taxes people. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, when you look at Article 94, the Constitution is very clear. Our first duty is representation. And because of that, Honorable Speaker, on these matters touching on finance bill, I want to urge my colleagues, including myself, that when the position of your political party or your political party leader is not aligned with the position of your people on this, stand with your people. Stand with your people. And so, Honorable Speaker, I'm standing to oppose, because the people of Homa Bay Town constituency for whom I speak are saying the imagination that we can impose taxes on bread is bad. The imagination that we can impose taxes on vehicles which are already assets is not good. The imagination, Honorable Speaker, that we can impose any taxes on eggs, whether imported or otherwise, the people of Homa Bay tell me, Honorable Speaker, is bad. Honorable Speaker, I'm encouraged with the thinking that we can drop most of those I've mentioned. But Honorable Speaker, let me mention that when you were at the University of Nairobi, if you needed to change diet, the only thing you go to is an egg. It's an egg. This is the diet balancing, you know, food. Egg with sukuma wiki, you have ugali, you are done. It is for students. That is the case in the villages. Honorable Speaker, you may say we are going to impose taxes only on imported table eggs. But how will you distinguish between those eggs you're using to hatch and the eggs to be eaten on the table? Yeah. Do we have the machinery to confirm it? Honorable Speaker, there is no empirical data. And this is where I think the Finance Committee failed this House. Do we have data in terms of the amount of eggs which are imported against the amounts produced locally that are in our market? Once we increase the price for imported eggs, going by the amounts, my fear, Honorable Speaker, is that when you go to the shop, you will not distinguish. Honorable Speaker, the last...
Time up, Ferdinand Wanyonyi. It is 3 minutes. Don't talk as if it is 10 minutes, it's 3 minutes.
I want to take this opportunity, thank you very much, Speaker, to remind this House that the budget is actually an annual circulation, and therefore I'll ask members, and I think the opportunity is there, not only that, but not to whip our emotion on this. Let's not whip our emotion on this. The opportunity has been given to us to have suggestions, so that I can be able to have suggestions that can be able to at least correct whatever we've gone wrong, to be able to correct and put in whatever input you can put, to be able to create more opportunities for our people. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, mine is to ask members to come up with those suggestions, because the ball is in our court, to be able to come up with whatever suggestions you have, to be able to correct and implement some of these issues that can be able to make this country to be self-sustainable. As you know, you are told Kenya is now the 27th fastest growing economy in the whole country. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to thank the committee led by my brother Kimani, that we should be able to move faster and be able to come in with suggestions to be able to move, because one of which, as you say, you want to dismiss this particular proposal. We have CDF, and have given us like 50 million shillings. We have the CALF for the ladies, that again 30 billion shillings, and of course electricity, to be able to have our country with nice approach to economy by having electricity all over the country. Therefore, I think this bill is good enough. We should not actually dismiss it for the sake of it. We should be able to come in with positive approach to be able to move forward. As it is today, I do just want to dismiss because somebody called me and asked him, what do you want me to remove? He didn't even know. So let's not go by emotion. Let's go by whatever we have and be able to move forward our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Manduku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For avoidance of doubt, I stand to oppose the Finance Bill 2024 and urge my colleagues to vote no. Mr. Speaker, the bill as presented before the House goes against our own tax policy, which we approved in this House. But curiously, Mr. Speaker, in an effort to expand the tax base, there's a provision that has been sneaked in that will compel families to pay capital gains tax on land that they transfer to their children. If you look at the proposal to amend the Stamp Duty Act Cap 480, I find it difficult that if I give my son land or if I ask my family to donate land to my children, I'll be compelled to pay some taxes. Further than that, Mr. Speaker, and having worked at the Port of Mombasa, I can tell you that this country is a net importer. And therefore, increasing the IDF fees by 0.5% will have a net effect of having expensive goods manufactured locally. Mr. Speaker, there's a provision also in this bill that seeks to expand or to extend the number of days that the Kenya Revenue Authority can get back to taxpayers on decision making from the 60 days to 90 days. I find it curious that we want to give the taxman a lot of time to get back to us on very simple decisions which would otherwise streamline taxation. Mr. Speaker, my advice to the government is that they should get down to work. Avoid listening to tweeting economists and avoid too many prayers. Get back to work and grow the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kajiado Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the Finance Bill 2024 for the following reason, Honorable Speaker. One, the Finance Act 2023 had reduced the import declaration fee from 3.5 to 2.5%. This, Honorable Speaker, not only gave us a whole of 10 billion shillings, but it also encouraged importation. And Honorable Speaker, we all know the net effect of this. The proposed finance bill, Honorable Speaker, is proposing to take back the importation declaration fee to 3.5 and therefore discouraging importation and therefore growing our industries. Honorable Speaker, I'd like to commend the Gen Zs who have been out there, but also advise them to seek information, because one of the reasons why these young people are out in the streets is mainly because of unemployment. This importation declaration fee that has been increased seeks to grow our manufacturing sector and therefore seeks to employ the same young people. Second, Honorable Speaker, is the eco levy in clause 45 of the bill. Honorable Speaker, we all know the effects of climate change, the negative effects of climate change. This levy, Honorable Speaker, seeks to protect our environment from environmental wastes, which is one of the contributors to climate change. Honorable Speaker, we could go on and on climate change and the effects and the negative effects that this has brought to the economy of this country. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, as a pastoralist, and I also urge the pastoralist members who are here to be keen. In the past budget, we have 1 billion shillings that is meant to be restocking money for our people. Our people had suffered losses due to drought. The 1 billion is going to be a game changer to our people. There is also money for value addition. And this, Honorable Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Karole Omondi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak to this bill. Let me begin by acknowledging that the bill is 132 pages and 65 clauses. So to say that you are rejecting it in totality is just playing to the gallery. I think there are good things and bad things about in the bill. Mr. Speaker, I would like to talk to three things only because of the limitation of time. The first one is a clause that is being introduced in this bill on tax abandonment. I've not had a lot of public discussion on it. But for the first time, we are being asked to make provision in law for the Commissioner of Tax together with the CS Treasury to give tax waivers where, in their view, the tax cannot be collected. I think this is a very, very fundamental activity that requires the input of this House. I think tax that is due is already public property, and any activity to waive it or to claim that it can be abandoned must have the input of this House. So I will be recommending, or rather I've already recommended certain amendments that will come to the floor of the House to recast this particular clause to see that any attempts to abandon tax are subject to approval of this House, as well as the requirements of Articles 201 and 210 of the Constitution of Kenya. Secondly, there is another provision in this particular bill talking about investment allowance for spectrum use. I believe this matter should be looked into detail because it also has retroactive effects on the tax that will be collected from the telecom companies. I believe there's a lot of work as Parliament we need to do on this matter to see that we do not create a loophole for tax losses of a very large scale. Finally, because of limitation of time, I would also like to acknowledge that there are very many good initiatives in these particular proposals or in these bills, especially those on cement and use of clinker. An impression was being created that the cost of cement will go up. Actually, the bill is reducing the cost of cement by waiving a lot of charges on the clinker. And I think that should go on record. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I will be supporting with amendments. Thank you.
Dindi Nyoro, Chairman Budget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And before I proceed, Honorable Speaker, I would wish to beg, because we are on the other side of expenditure, if possible, you could add me a few minutes so that I bring forth a message I have for the House.
Okay, I'll give you an extra 2 minutes, so you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as the law provides in the PFM Act, Article 39A, that we have to balance our expenditure and our revenues. Honorable Speaker, I want to talk as the chairman of budget, and I actually want to talk as an indifferent party, that whatever may happen on the bill, the Budget and Appropriations Committee is prepared, Honorable Speaker. But from the onset, we want to laud Kenyans for their voices. This country belongs to Kenyans, and when they express themselves, they are doing precisely what the Constitution provides. I also want to laud all the Kenyan leaders, including our side of government and the other side, Honorable Speaker, because we are all geared to the welfare of the Kenyan people. Honorable Speaker, I have since, and I want members to, if possible, they can have this in their mind as we debate. I have since received a letter and communication from the National Treasury addressed to the clerk of the National Assembly, but I am copied as the chairperson of budget. Honorable Speaker, the Treasury is looking in all scenarios. Scenario number one, if the bill passes only with the amendments from the Finance Committee. Scenario number two is actually if the bill, the MPs in their wisdom decide that we shelve it. Honorable Speaker, if the status quo remains, that we pass the bill as proposed by the Honorable Kimani Kuria and the committee, the appropriations bill passes as it is, Honorable Speaker, as we did last week. However, Honorable Speaker, it is important for members to note that in case there is a downfall in terms of the revenues by the proposed 200 billion that was to be raised in the finance bill, Honorable Speaker, then the government and the National Treasury and the Budget Committee is also prepared for that scenario. And I have communication, Honorable Speaker, from the National Treasury from the proposals. And I wish that I read some of them, that if the bill does not pass, Honorable Speaker, we will be reducing the budget for the State House, 451 million, budget at the State Office of the President, 451 million, security organs, defense, for example, will be losing 7.75 billion, ongoing debates in our constituencies will have to shelve that ambition by reducing by 800 million, Honorable Speaker. Higher Education Loans Board will be losing 3.2 billion. Honorable Speaker, the JSS teachers, 46,000 of them, Honorable Speaker, by letting this bill pass, will actually be giving jobs at the permanent and pensionable. And Honorable Speaker, if the wisdom of this House is to shelve that decision, then it means the JSS teachers, whom, Honorable Speaker, I would persuade this House that we confirm there will be no funding. NGCDF will be reducing by 15 billion shillings, which is 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker. The monies we appropriated for electricity, 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker, by again not giving the National Treasury the power for more revenue-raising measures, the 50 million per constituency will be disappearing today, Honorable Speaker. Coffee Cherry Fund will be cut 1 billion, Honorable Speaker, if there is no funding, Honorable Speaker, through the finance bill. Our last plea is this. This letter is public information. It can be shared to the members of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, my plea is this, as the chairman of budget, that if it's possible, the House Business Committee can actually bring the appropriations bill this afternoon. That the decision that we take in the finance bill, we can also cascade the same by appropriating the proposed cuts in the appropriation bill so that we can finish the entire business today, Honorable Speaker. However, Honorable Speaker, I am sure with the same energy that we are speaking either for or against, we will also explain to Kenyans, the JSS teachers, I am sure those who will be voting against their confirmation to PNP, we will also explain to them, Honorable Speaker. Those voting against increment in CDF will also be, Honorable Speaker, explaining to Kenyans about it. Those who will be voting against the increment, Honorable Speaker, of employing 20,000 more teachers will have an ample time to explain to the teachers of this country, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, the proposed cut in terms of roads is 15 billion. Those who will be voting against the increment of 15 billion to roads, I am sure they'll eloquently explain to Kenyans about it also, Honorable Speaker.
A minute to finish. Order.
Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order. Give him 3 minutes and wind up.
Honorable Speaker, I want to be very objective. Honorable Speaker, these are the proposed cuts in case there is no revenue-raising measures as proposed by Honorable Kimani Kuria. Honorable Speaker, number one, as I said, I want to be very clear. State House has been cut money 500 million, Office of the President another 500 million, security like defense is 7.75 billion cuts. Honorable Speaker, the same. We have already promised our JSS teachers that the 46,000 of them will be employed and on permanent and pensionable. Honorable Speaker, if we don't give the National Treasury the power for revenue-raising measures, it means the people will be voting against the confirmation of the 46,000 interns. Will have ample time to explain to them how they voted against them getting permanent jobs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the reduction in NGCDF is 15 billion shillings. That is a small figure, Honorable Speaker, because I can see members are saying 50 million is not much. In Kiharo, it's a lot of money, Honorable Speaker, that every constituency will be cut 50 million shillings starting July, Honorable Speaker. GAF, we just added them $500 million. Honorable Speaker, the proposal is to reverse the 500 million and also to reduce further by an extra 1 billion, Honorable Speaker. The monies we appropriated for electricity, 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker. I hope those who will be voting against electrification in our villages will have time to explain to Kenyans why they are voting against electricity in our rural areas, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is a proposed reduction.
Order. Honorable Commissioner Mishi, I know you differently. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members on both sides of the House. Order. Order. Honorable members on both sides of the House. In the tradition of Parliament, if you approve of something, you thumb your feet. You don't wail and shout as if you are in a rally. This is not a rally. This is a House of Parliament. Dindi, can you wind up?
Honorable Speaker, the other thing is that there is a proposed reduction of 1 billion shillings in livestock restocking. From our side, we believe those who lost their livestock deserve to be compensated. Those who will vote against 1 billion that is going to livestock restocking will explain to our pastoralists, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also, the monies proposed for reduction for school feeding program is 1.8 billion. On our side, we believe the 1.8 billion is needed to feed the children of this country as they go to our schools, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the political parties, we can all agree in unison. We are proposing a cut of 900 million. I know that is not contentious. We can agree to cut it this afternoon, Honorable Speaker, because we are also prepared for it. Honorable Speaker, there is a proposed cut of 5.5 billion shillings for cash transfer. Our parents who registered last year deserve to get their cash transfer.
Order, time up. Bet Simba. Order.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa.
You have already spoken on this bill. You have no business doing what you are doing.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa na mimi niweze kuzungumzia kuhusu mswada huu wa fedha. Mimi nimesimama kuupinga mswada huu. Na kitu nitasema hapa, viongozi muheshimu malalamishi ama matakwa ya wananchi. Muisikize vilio vya wananchi. Kuongeza ushuru wa mafuta kutapandisha kila bidhaa ambayo inahusiana na mafuta. Kwa hivyo hii ni shughuli ambayo haifai kwa sababu gharama za maisha zitakuwa juu. Kuweka ushuru kwa bidhaa zinazotoka ng'ambo zitamrudia tena mwananchi, kwa sababu bidhaa zinazotengenezwa hapa nchini bado haziwezi kukimu mahitaji yetu, mpaka tutachukua tena kutoka kule zile za ng'ambo ambazo zitaleta shida zaidi. Kwanza tutengeneze viwanja vyetu kabla tujaweka ushuru huo. Na kuhusu kwamba fedha zitatoka wapi, wapunguze matumizi katika ofisi za serikali. Wanaweka pesa nyingi kuhudumia wageni wakija. Kama mgeni amekuja, mpe maji ya kunywa, na kama ni lazima akae paka mchana, mpe kidheri, mwambie hiyo ndio chakula chetu cha kitamaduni, sio kukula makuku na madino kwa gharama za wananchi. Mnaleta paka tu katika sehemu zenu. Kupandisha bei ya mikate, mwananchi wa kawaida ni bidhaa ambayo inatumika kwa kila boma. Kila boma asubuhi na jioni anatumia mikate. Wewe unaenda kuongeza ushuru wa mkate. Na mkifanya hivyo tutakunywa chai na mgoka kama ndio mnataka hivyo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba serikali ipunguze ile matumizi ambayo wao wanafanya. Wapunguze safari wanazokwenda nje. Waende mahali ikiwa ni muhimu na ni watu wawili pekee yake, hapana kwenda watu 30 alafu mnasema wananchi waongeze ushuru na huku mmechukua ndege nzima mnaenda nayo huko nje. Mnakwenda mahoteli, mnazungumza ambao mikutano mnaweza fanya katika boardroom zenu. Hiyo ndio sio ni matatizo. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema kwamba ushuru ama hii mswada wa fedha uangushwe huu, kwa sababu wananchi wameusoma. Msione wale watoto wale vijana wameandamana, walisoma kwa sababu huu mswada uko katika mitandao, wanajua kila kipengee kile kilichoko pale. Mnaongeza matairi, mnaongeza vyombo ambavyo vitapima saratani. Munaongeza bidhaa ambazo za x-ray ambao tayari matibabu ni gharama, na saizi mnaongeza tena. Itakuwa zaidi, watu wanaumia, watoto wanajinyonga huko kwa sababu ya depression ambao ziko nazo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kupinga mswada huu. Asante sana.
Mwengi Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make a very brief contribution. And my contribution, first of all, is to debunk some erroneous myths that have been perpetuated in this debate. Mr. Speaker, during this debate, a perception has been created that the contestations around the finance bill have only happened after President William Ruto became president. Nothing can be far from the truth. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are students of history know that taxation began 3,000 years before Christ, actually in the ancient kingdom of Egypt. And even at that time, taxation was contentious. It has also been said before this House during the government of Kenyatta I, during the government of President Moi, during the government of President Kibaki, during the government of Kenyatta II, and even now, the finance bill has been an annual event, and it has never been a smooth sail. But something different has happened this year, Mr. Speaker. During the many times that the finance bill has been presented before Parliament, a lot of the times the voices of the people have never been factored by either the Parliament or by the executive. But for the first time in history, the voices of the people have been heard and have been factored in the report that was presented before this House by the Finance Committee. One of the principles of good governance is responsiveness to the wishes of the people. And I want to laud the Finance Committee for being responsive to the wishes of the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, politics is a very interesting game. On Tuesday, and if we may be heard in silence, Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, after we finished our parliamentary group, I had a very jovial discussion with some of my friends who are on the other side. I had very jovial discussions with some of my friends who are on the other side, and they were saying, why have you removed everything that you wanted to rely on in the finance bill to do politics? And I asked them, but you complained about these things, and you have been heard and they have been removed. And they told me, you know, the work of opposition is to oppose. And now that you have pulled the carpet under our feet, we must find something new to hang on. I am saying this so that Kenyans know that the opposition to the finance bill is majorly inspired by politics. It may not be inspired by the content. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, as a lawyer, I want to say, and this would have been ably articulated if I may get 1 minute, that the issues that have been complained of have already been overtaken by events. They are actually otious. Finally, what is the effect of rejecting the finance bill? The effect of rejecting the finance bill is to resort back to the finance bill of
Joseph Oyula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this important bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking the Finance Committee for the work well done. It took a long time, but they came up with a good report. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the amendments that were made, this bill was a disaster. This bill is assuming that the Kenyans tax rate should move to a higher rate regime, which is not comfortable for this country at all. Mr. Speaker, we should not take ourselves to a higher tax regime, which is going to cause stress to our business community and the individuals. The country needs to move slowly towards a higher tax regime. If the country is moved very fast, Mr. Speaker, then we will not balance our budget. Mr. Speaker, we need to make sure that the revenue is raised, yes, but also the tax rate is comfortable to the community of this country. Mr. Speaker, as we go through this bill, Mr. Speaker, let us note that increasing the tax rates does not guarantee raising that money. It has happened in the bill for 2023. We never made it. The chances are that during this period, we may also not make it. So the Treasury should not come up with such a disastrous proposal in the tax rate. It is for this reason, Mr. Speaker, that we are rejecting this bill, and I would want the Treasury to take it back and come up with a bill that is balanced, a bill that will ensure the country is raising revenue, and a bill that will ensure the people of Kenya are not stressed. This is very important, because if we raise the tax and we don't get that money, it will not help the country at all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jen Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by congratulating the Finance Committee for listening to Kenyans and honoring their request on the deletion of the taxes that they felt that were punitive on them. Honorable Speaker, I would want to contribute on the clause on the introduction of eco-levy on sanitary towels and diapers. Honorable Speaker, I speak as the chairperson of the 47 women representatives. And recently, Honorable Speaker, we had the opportunity of enacting the Education Act of 2016, where we ensured that every student from class 5 to class 8, girls receive their sanitary towels. Honorable Speaker, out of the 47 counties, only 4 local manufacturers were given the opportunity to supply these sanitary towels. Honorable Speaker, these prominent houses have been treated to a lot of drama and untruthful stories of the situation we find ourselves with sanitary towels. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to state that this levy has been introduced so that we encourage our local production and our local manufacturers, Honorable Speaker. I hear some members say that we will have low supply because we don't have enough manufacturers. Honorable Speaker, I have had conversations with our manufacturers who are able to produce enough sanitary towels for us. Honorable Speaker, a visit to the supermarkets made me learn that sanitary towels that are locally manufactured are cheaper than those that are imported. Honorable Speaker, we cannot allow importers to continue making unscrupulous profits on Kenyans here, yet they pay no excise on their products, and the local manufacturers have to pay VAT on their raw materials. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this bill, and I stand to support the eco-levy be charged on sanitary towels and diapers to ensure that we grow our local manufacturers. A local manufacturer told me he used to have 600 employees. He has reduced them to 100 because of idle capacity. Honorable Speaker, it is our time to stop speaking from both sides of our mouths. If we want to create employment, we cannot be the defenders of importers. Anybody who wants to import can come set up the industry locally, and that's where we are going to give them all the business that they need. And if they lack a place to go and establish their industries, I'm gladly welcoming them to Laikipia County, where they can come and set up a manufacturing industry, and we will not charge them any duty as long as they are producing diapers and sanitary towels locally within our country. Honorable Speaker, allow me to conclude by saying, Honorable Speaker, allow me to conclude by saying I'm speaking as a user of sanitary towels as well as a mother to a toddler who uses diapers. So, Honorable Speaker, anybody telling us about imported sanitary towels, they range from the price of 75 shillings to around 175 shillings. Locally produced sanitary towels are ranging between 55 shillings and 75 shillings.
Andon Oloch.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the very onset, allow me to say that I rise to oppose this bill. Honorable Speaker, the Finance Bill 2024-2025 has redefined our public discourse on things that affect us, especially on the question of how, when, what, and where to tax the people of Kenya. I want to take this opportunity to thank our Generation Z, because they have reminded us of what is stated under Article 2 and how we, as this legislative house, the executive and judiciary, arrive at the positions in which we arrive. Honorable Speaker, this generation in their public discourse on the question of the finance bill has reminded us that the sovereign power actually belongs to them. All this power is delegated power. The power, including that power to levy taxation, is a power that is a delegated power. It is circumscribed, it is limited, and must be used for and on behalf for the good of the people of this country. This is what the people in the Generation Z have told us. I have 2 points to advance, especially because of the time that we have. Let me talk about tax administration. Honorable Speaker, a misrepresentation has been made in this administration and in the last 2 finance bills that the more tax you levy, the more yield you will get in terms of revenue. Nothing can be further from the truth. There is a big revenue shortfall from the 2023-2024 financial year in terms of tax revenue. Honorable Speaker, the policy underpinning the revenue or tax collection in this country, and especially this administration, is wanting. There is very little that has been said in terms of what measures that have been put in place to seal the loopholes on corruption, which would lead to higher yields as opposed to imposing more taxes and taxes on every issue. Honorable Speaker, I also want to speak on the policy disconnect of the better agenda of this government. I sit in the Trade Committee, and on the 2 places where you can get more employment for the youth in this country, in ICT, digital economy, they have levied taxes. They have now come with the position that we have listened to you Kenyans. We have listened, we have reduced bread, we have reduced eco-levy, we have reduced this, and we have reduced this tax. The fact of the matter is that this was a long con. The real bill is what is in the report.
Member for Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want, Honorable Speaker, to draw the House and the public in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 10, read together with Article 118. Honorable Speaker, the national values and principles of governance, and Honorable Speaker, public access to information and participation. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me say that the conversation around the finance bill has actually given this House and the leaders in various parastatals, including the Treasury, a wake-up call. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, there is a need to engage Kenyans in the process of formation of the finance bill. And Honorable Speaker, the good ideas and the bad ideas in this finance bill, Honorable Speaker, shouldn't have gotten to this House without engagement by the public, Honorable Speaker, from the onset and from the formation of this bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have made it even more difficult to the Chairman, Finance Committee, my brother Kimani Kuria. He has had it so rough for the few weeks because he had to explain what the thoughts of the Treasury Department of this country from a point of his own logic, Honorable Speaker. And I want to call upon the ministry to change tactic. And also, maybe, Honorable Speaker, it is the right time to think about how we can empower and entrench permanently issues to do with public participation and public engagement, Honorable Speaker, in our laws. Because, Honorable Speaker, we need to rethink the public participation laws so that the public can be with us from the onset of formation of our bills, moving forward, so that we don't have good ideas that are going to have a backlash of Kenyans because of lack of participation, Honorable Speaker. The punitive clauses that have found themselves in this bill, Honorable Speaker, the issues of motor vehicle tax, the cooking oil, the airtime, should not have gotten to this bill, Honorable Speaker, where we are today. And I feel it is important we learn from this. Honorable Speaker, where we are as a country, we need to know and show Kenyans that we are cutting costs.
Wamboka. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. From the onset, I want to say I oppose the finance bill for the very reason that we are representatives of the people and the people have spoken. I think over time, Kenyans are losing their cool day by day. As we witnessed on Tuesday, Kenyans and young Kenyans particularly, whom I want to congratulate, were on street saying that this bill is not good. And they are the people who sent us here, Honorable Speaker. So if my people of Bumula constituency have told me that where they sit, they are overburdened and no more burdening, and I should not say no, and they elected me, Mr. Speaker, I must go by what they say. The committee in its report proposes to increase the road maintenance levy from 18 shillings to 25 per litre for all petroleum fuels. If this proposal passes, it will directly increase price of fuel by about 7 shillings, Mr. Speaker. However, this proposal may not be effective. One, you want to tell border borders that you are our people. You are the people on the ground. You are the people we wanted to lift from bottom up. At the same time, you now want them to buy the same fuel at a higher price. How are they going to manage? And I want to tell the chairman of this committee that when people are overburdened, they cannot afford these taxes. You must review the 2023-24 finance bill and you realize that you did not achieve what you wanted because it's too expensive for ordinary Kenyans. So you will still not hit your target because you are overburdening these people. Mr. Speaker, our constitution talks of public participation. The chairman introduced this as an afterthought, meaning he has not subjected this to public participation. On behalf of Mamamboga, on behalf of Boda Boda, on behalf of people who cannot afford their living, Mr. Speaker, we say no. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I oppose.
Member for Molo. Joro, sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity for me to contribute to this important financial bill. Mr. Speaker, let me start first by appreciating what the chairman, finance and the budget have done with their teams. And Madam Speaker, allow me to say that Kenyans decried so much. Even in my constituency, I had gotten a lot of people making requests for us to do different amendments in relation with the bread, the issues of the motorbikes, motorcycles, cooking oils, pumps, and so many other issues. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm just standing to support this finance bill because the committee and the members of this parliament have heard the cries of the members of this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, still on that point, we cannot sit here in this parliament and forget that we are the representatives of the people, and our people needs a lot of support in different sectors. Madam Speaker, in this finance bill, we are getting each constituency in this country 50 million Kenya shillings in relation with electricity matters. It is in the same finance bill, Madam Speaker, that we are also adding 401 billion Kenya shillings to the county for development. Madam Speaker, in the same finance bill, we are here also to appreciate that we have gotten addition in the CDF. Also, the GAF team has gotten addition. And Madam Speaker, it is on this finance bill, which is also we are gaining a lot, that even our 46,000, our JSS teachers, they will be confirmed. And then, Madam Speaker, in relation also with this finance bill, it is good also to appreciate that in this country we have a lot of roads which are destroyed. Every time we are camping in the office of the CS Murkomen, and therefore when we are getting funding through for our roads, and Madam Speaker, on that point, some of us, we have projects which are stored in our respective constituencies. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we are supporting this bill, which also caters for our elderly, which also caters for matters of farmers and very many things in this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we stand here as members of parliament also to remember that it is good to be honest as members, and it is good also to guide our people, and we elected members of parliament to give the good direction to our people. Therefore, Madam Speaker, whoever is rejecting this finance bill is against the will of Kenyans. Kenyans want development. We have heard the cries of Kenyans, and Madam Speaker, we have done the right amendment. And
your time is up. Honorable Muliungi, Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am directed by the people of Mwingi Central and the youth in general to reject this bill. Madam Speaker, I therefore rise to oppose. Madam Speaker, this bill is not only punitive but retrogressive. Madam Speaker, the amendments done by the Finance Committee were meant to hoodwink Kenyans because in the first instance, why did you put tax on bread? Why did you put tax on diapers? Why did you put tax on cooking oil? These are essentials. Why did you put tax on M-Pesa? Why did you put tax on boda? Madam Speaker, I'm very disturbed by this finance bill, especially because this government is insensitive even to the sick. There is a tax on cancer equipment, which will eventually increase the cost of treatment of cancer. Madam Speaker, the bill in general intends to increase taxation, which eventually will increase the cost of living, and it will make life harder and make Kenyans poorer. Madam Speaker, we recall that the Kenya Kwanza government promised a bottom-up economic model, taking money to the hustlers, to the villages, to the poor. But this bill is now taking money from the poor and bringing it back to Nairobi. Madam Speaker, I care for the people of Mwingi, I care for the jobless, I care for the youth, I care for the hustlers. I therefore reject the bill. I reject high taxation. I reject high cost of living. I reject poverty. I reject oppression. I condemn Treasury for bringing this shoddy bill to Parliament. And therefore I demand its withdrawal. Madam Speaker, I oppose archaic, punitive, outrageous, and careless finance bills in the future. I say no to this finance bill, I say no to oppression. I say no to unfair taxation. I say no to poverty. I reject the finance bill. I reject. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Butere, Honorable Tindi.
Asante sana madam. Asante sana the speaker kwa kunipea nafasi. Jambo la kwanza nataka niseme nimesimama kwa kupinga mswada huu wa fedha mwaka wa 2024. The speaker, vile unajua Wakenya wanahangaika, gharama ya maisha iko juu, na serikali ambayo iko kwa mamlaka ilitafuta kura na mamlaka ikiambia Wakenya ya kwamba watashukisha ushuru, wakasema ya kwamba wataweka pesa mfukoni, watatengeneza kazi na watafanya maisha ikuwe mema kwa ule Mkenya wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo hii mswada wa fedha unaongeza ushuru ambayo ni kinyume na vile walieleza Wakenya. Hii mswada unaongeza gharama kwa ubebaji wa miwa kutoka kwa shamba ikienda katika kiwanda, na hiyo itadhuru bei ya mkulima kupata ile faida kutoka kwa miwa. Pia tuko na kipengele ambacho kinaongea kuhusu maneno ya kuongeza bei kwa vifaa vya kufanya utafiti katika ugonjwa wa saratani. Kwa hivyo mimi kama mjumbe wa Butere, Speaker, mimi napinga mswada huu wa fedha 2024, na nasema ya kwamba wenzangu ambao kwa serikali watimize ile ahadi ambayo waliambia Wakenya. Tunataka tuone mama mboga akifaidika katika serikali, tunataka kuona bodaboda akifaidika, tunataka kuona mtu wa chini ambaye ni hasla akifaidika, tunataka tuone viwanda zikiwanawiri, sio kuweka ushuru mingi katika viwanda. Kwa hivyo, Speaker, mimi kama mjumbe wa Butere nataka niende katika rekodi ya kwamba nimepinga mswada huu, na najua Wakenya wengi wako na sisi tutapiga kupinga mswada wa 2024. Asanteni sana.
Member for Sigor, Lochakapong.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now I rise to support this Finance Bill 2024. And Honorable Speaker, arising out of the report of the Finance and Planning Committee that has considered the recommendations through public participations of stakeholders, that is Kenyans, and proposed a raft of amendments to the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, I would want to support based on that. Now, Honorable Speaker, when you look at the report of the Finance and Planning Committee, which is a committee of this House, having looked at the finance bill and having listened to the stakeholders, Honorable Speaker, I think it is a good report. And on the basis of this report, Honorable Speaker, I want to support this finance bill. Now, Honorable Speaker, it will also be dishonest for those opposing this report and this bill that they are only looking at the finance bill as proposed and not looking at the report of the committee that has looked at this finance bill. Honorable Speaker, now arising out of the engagement from public participation and the stakeholders, Honorable Speaker, now the committee has proposed a raft of amendments to the bill which has taken into account the wishes and the thinking of the majority of Kenyans. Now, Honorable Speaker, I think it will also be important to inform the Gen Zs that they need to be updated because they are on the streets based on the original bill and not taking into account what the committee has recommended for amendment. Now, Honorable Speaker, when you look at the committee's report, there is a proposal to increase the excise duty on money transfer services, which has since been dropped by the committee. Now, motor vehicle tax of 2.5%, Honorable Speaker, has been dropped. 16% VAT on financial services has also been dropped by the committee in their recommendation. And I think, Honorable Speaker, this is a good thing. Now, Honorable Speaker, from the report of this committee, now, KRA, they have dropped the KRA to access personal data, and that has been dropped. 16% VAT on solar has also been dropped. Now 16% VAT on ordinary bread has also been dropped. So I think it is good to tell the country that that is what has happened. Now, Honorable Speaker, there is a proposal in the budget of 1 billion shillings for livestock.
Member for Migori, Honorable Fatuma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I stand here to confirm that I will vote no and I oppose this bill with the strongest words possible. Madam Speaker, I would like those speaking in this House to go into their phones and see what's happening on the streets. If there is any public participation that needs to be done, it is now. Go out and see what's happening on the streets. All our uniformed policemen are out to tackle it out with the youths. The youths who are not from Kibera, the youths who are not from Majengo, they are from Karen, they are from Kayole, they are from Lavington, they are Christians, they are Muslims, they are all mixed races. They are against this bill. But because they voted for me, today I will vote for them, saying it is a no. Madam Speaker, there is a problem with the youth getting jobs in this country. And majority of them are now depending on social media to make some pennies for them to feed their family. As we say that we have lowered the cost of bread, may I tell you, bread will not be affordable at all for these youths, because the smartphones that they use to do TikTok and any other small business that can give them funds, they have put a levy on it of about 225 shillings on top of the price that is already there. We know very well that we don't have smartphones here manufactured into better quality that they can use for their business. Madam Speaker, we are hurting the hustlers that we promised to help. They have created their own jobs for themselves, and we are still following them up where they are to hurt them more. Madam Speaker, we know that electricity is very expensive in this country, and more so it's even irregular. You get electricity 1 hour, 2 hours, it is gone. Madam Speaker, we have put an extra levy on the basic solar system batteries, meaning that if you can't get Kenya Power, sorry, you cannot get solar. What else are we trying to tell Kenyans? What are we telling investors? That go to hell. And I am telling you, Madam Speaker, since this government came into power, we have 30 companies that have closed down, including my favorite son's company called Cadbury that makes Cadbury chocolates. Soon you won't be able to get them at all because the company has closed. And other more like Procter & Gamble, Ricket & Banker, Colgate Palmolive, Cadbury, even Rubber. I can go on up to 30. Unfortunately, we brag here and say that we are creating jobs. May I tell you, the sanitary parts that we are bragging here that we have put levy on imported ones. I want you to know that all these women in this house, plus your daughters and sons, fellow men, they know that these sanitary parts that are being put on tax here, in other countries they're given.
Member for Mandera South, Honorable Abdul Haro.
Give me the mic. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice on this very important debate. Honorable Speaker, I must say the finance bill as it was originally prepared by the Treasury was a bill that I was prepared to vote no on a number of clauses. But thanks to the Finance Committee, which has listened to stakeholders and has come up with a raft of proposals that are recommending to amend the finance bill as it was originally mentioned. Honorable Speaker, There are quite a number of areas which are directly important to my constituents, although the entire finance bill is important to my constituents, but there are a number of areas which are directly important to my constituents, and those areas have been proposed in the finance committee report after listening to the stakeholders for amendment. Particularly, the 16% VAT on bread is very important to my constituents, and I'm happy it has been dropped. The 2.5% vehicle tax is very important to my constituents, and I'm very happy it has been dropped. The excise duty on edible oils is very important to my constituents, and I'm happy it has been dropped. The money transfer and foreign exchange tax has been dropped. The eco tax on diapers and sanitary pads, which have been dropped, is important to my constituents. And Honorable Speaker, the housing levy, the NSSF and NHIF, which is now a tax deductible item, is also very important, which means those who are salaried will not have a lot of taxes to pay. And Honorable Speaker, the proposal to amend Data Protection Act for KRA to access our data has been removed. That is also an important area to my constituents. And Honorable Speaker, the 16% VAT on supply of solar and lithium batteries is important because it promotes uptake of clean energy for my constituents and the rest of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, on the divide side, I'm also happy that 18 billion has been set aside for the employment of 46,000 JSS teachers on PNP, on permanent and pensionable terms. And I'm also happy that the appropriations bill also is going to fund the extra hiring of another 20,000 JSS teachers, coming from an area where teachers is a challenge to our schools. I'm very happy that this is happening. And 1 billion for restocking livestock that have been destroyed as a result of drought and floods is also very important for my constituents, and I'm happy with that. The school feeding program, which is going to be funded by the government, is also very important to my constituents, and I'm happy.
Your time is up. Member for Westlands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I oppose this bill because, Madam Speaker, Kenyans are feeling the weight of being overtaxed. And Madam Speaker, I'll paraphrase, Madam Speaker, what the former Prime Minister of England said, Winston Churchill. For a nation to try to tax itself into prosperity, it's like a man standing in a bucket and trying to lift himself up by the handle. Madam Speaker, the problem we have in this country, Madam Speaker, is not about taxes. Kenya is not paying taxes. Kenyans pay taxes, Madam Speaker. But the problem is this money is not used properly. There's a lot of wastage in the government. There's a lot of corruption, and the corruption these days is done in the budget. Madam Speaker, they hide money in the budget and it disappears. People negotiate deals and hide money. Madam Speaker, if this money is put to good use, the government will have enough money to do their projects and serve Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the several proposals that have been made, and some of them, Madam Speaker, have been dealt with by the committee. But Madam Speaker, this we must bring to the amendment when it comes to the House, Madam Speaker, because this bill does not address an equitable and inclusive fiscal policy that fosters sustainable development, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Finance Bill 2024, as it stands, is punitive, and it will have devastating effects, Madam Speaker, on young people, not only in Nairobi, but all over the country. And Madam Speaker, you've seen the young people who are demonstrating now are young people. This G generation, Madam Speaker, they have come out in droves. And Madam Speaker, if anybody is trying to wish them away,
these young people, they don't care. They are serious and they are coming out with issues. They have taken our numbers, they are sending us messages. And Madam Speaker, these children are now saying no. And that was the government promised that they are going to lift their lives from bottom to up. But now it looks like it will never happen. So, Madam Speaker, this bill does not address those issues, and I oppose.
Honorable Mark Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to reject this finance bill. And from the onset, just bring to the attention of how Gen Z has been encouraging us to steal the bill and run out with it. And we've hoped that the Speaker will communicate that the process doesn't work that way. Honorable Speaker, the finance bill has a lot of grievances, whether it's tax, motor vehicle tax, whether it's bread tax. We're exempting VAT from transfer of businesses. Makes me wonder whose business is this that wants to be acquired, and so many other taxes. Honorable Speaker, you go to the report, it has retained excise duty on motorcycles, it has retained also on data, and we're talking of digital hubs. Gambling, there is a tax that has been increased, both VAT and excise duty. This will mean there's a black market, and more importantly, will also lead to less collection, as we saw last year. The target was 31 billion, we've only collected 26 billion. We should learn from what has happened with capital gains tax. We increased it last year, this year it's been reduced. Why? Because we collected less. The eco-levy on medical equipment, such as cancer, why are we increasing taxes on cancer patients? Imports, we're an importing nation. We must accept IDF, RDL until we're able to produce locally to satisfy our local market. We must consider that we are still an importing nation. Come to Nairobi, you'll find shops have been closed, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there's a clause 57 here that if you fail to integrate into e-teams, the fine is 2 million. It's been proposed by the committee, they lower this. They've not said. They've not said how much. So that is what you stand to lose, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this finance bill and the last years, based on the number of businesses it is killing, it operates like a serial killer. And serial killers leave a trademark so that they can be identified. You want to find it in this finance bill, it's in clause 66. Why would you put that clause there, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, clause 63, which talks about KRA accessing your data. I want to challenge the entire House. Look at the amendments of the committee. They have not paid, they are withdrawing this clause. This clause still remains as per the recommendation in the report. So, and I want to tell the members on the other side, this clause will hurt you more than it will hurt me, Honorable Speaker. Finally, Honorable Speaker, Section 54 of the Housing Act. Why are we deleting it? Who are we selling these houses to?
Honorable Ngeleche.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Elgeyo Marakwet an opportunity to speak on the Finance Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, first of all, before I say something, at times it is very dishonest or very ignorant for members of Parliament who would want to celebrate the increase in CDF, NGAF, and get other funding for maybe electricity, water, without telling Kenyans where the money is supposed to come from. Again, Madam Speaker, I think there is a misconception there in the public, especially the Generation Z. They don't understand that the finance bill is there to enable the budget, for the budget to be implemented. We cannot purport to implement the budget without having
without actually knowing where to get the money from, Madam Speaker. It is, I want to say, for the generation Z to get jobs, we need to impose tax on imported goods so that we encourage our local manufacturers, Madam Speaker, to be able to produce and employ these youth, Madam Speaker. This tax will ensure that the JSS teachers get employed, Madam Speaker. We also recently we saw the intern doctors demonstrating, Madam Speaker, and the government could not raise funds to facilitate and pay them, Madam Speaker. The only way that this can be realized is, Madam Speaker, by ensuring that we get tax and we get levies from Wananchi, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is also a misconception on so much. I am a farmer and I come from Elgeyo Marakwet where people farm. Tax on imported potatoes, eggs, avocados from outside. I think I support, Madam Speaker, because we also need our farmers to produce and sell their produce, Madam Speaker, in the local market. But then, Madam Speaker, if we waive the tax from eggs that are from outside potatoes, they always flood our market from our neighboring countries, and our farmer is going to lose it big time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, somebody called Benjamin Franklin said, in this world nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. For a country to run, Madam Speaker, and I want to pity the current government, Mr. Speaker, sir, because when it borrows, there is complaint and public outcry that we are over-borrowing. Again, when it tries to get the money locally by increasing taxes and levies from locally, there is still an outcry. I think there is something that people who have a knowledge and idea are misleading young people, maybe who are not aware of what it is, Madam.
Charles Onjoke. Charles Onjoke.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity that I may contribute to this bill. On behalf of the people of Budgetary, who have sent me various views about this bill, they have taken time to go through it. Some of the issues they say are as follows: that there's wanton wastage of government public funds that were to be stemmed, then we can have a better economy and a better bill. Two, the bill as is, the VAT on bread is not acceptable by the people of Budgetary. The tax on motor vehicles, and most of the taxes seem to be dampening the economy. We'd have to see a situation where the taxes promote the growth of our economy. The basis of taxation is two things: the base and the rate. We seem Treasury and KRA to be fixated on the rate. The base is stagnated. How I wish we focused more on the rate so that there's more relief on the Kenyans who are paying the taxes. Honorable Speaker, people of Budgetary would want a tax that is more humane, a tax that they can afford because they are impoverished, they are overburdened as things are now. School fees is a problem to pay, medical fees are a problem to pay because there's not money in their pockets. We hear that the economy is doing well, and if the economy is doing well, this should be reflected in the base of the tax. But instead we are seeing the rate being raised without being compensated on the base that is said to be growing. The two items that are touted to indicate that the economy is growing is the dropping inflation and the exchange rate. However, the public debt that is rising all the time is not discussed. The unemployment, where you get 2 out of 3 people unemployed, particularly the youth, is not discussed. Those are very critical items of the economy, the state of any economy. We'd want measures in our physical strategy or plan that speak to addressing the unemployment in this country. With those, Mr. Speaker, and following the recommendation of the people of Budgetary, I object to the bill.
Ronald Karauri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this motion. And I want to start by commending our Gen Z Kenyans who came out in large numbers. I think some of us who are never involved in politics, and these young people are realizing now that change will not come if they do not get involved. We've all received so many text messages from these Kenyans from all over the country. Some of them were asking for donations, some of them were for sponsorships for school, most of them were about the finance bill. We're also getting M-Pesas to confirm our identity. Mr. Speaker, regrettably, the maximum amount I got was less than 50 shillings, while most of my counterparts got over 100,000. But I want to encourage Kenyans to keep contributing because I have a foundation which supports needy children in Kansarani to go to school. I understand the frustration of these Kenyans. When there is a tax on bread, when they do not have jobs, I understand why they would go on the streets. When you have failure in collection of taxes and never achieve the target, and you see bloated budgets and expenditures, it is very likely that people will go on the street. When you see a policymaker, I saw someone from KRA on TV the other day who could not explain the motor vehicle tax. This only creates the perception in the public that these taxes are out there to hurt them and not to help them. But even as I say that, Mr. Speaker, we must come back to reality. We have a budget deficit that we need to breach. We need to stop borrowing. Members of this House passed a budget policy statement. I talked to one of my colleagues here and he told me we will pass the budget policy, but we will reject the finance bill. You know, when we talk about integrity, we need to start there. The changes have already been made, and I want to commend the Finance Committee. The VAT on bread has been dropped. The excise on vegetable oil has been dropped. The motor vehicle tax has been dropped. Mobile money transfer has been dropped. I would be a very deceptive individual if I did not change my stance and now support the bill with the amendments. For the Gen Z, I want to tell you the headlines of yesterday's newspapers. Nation headline said, Ruto backs down. The Standard talked about Ruto beats a retreat. My advice to them is that you've already won. In terms of the budget policy, the changes have been made in the finance bill, and you should be celebrating. And with those...
Ivo Bara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also add my voice to the debate. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Kabondo Kasipul and all those concerned Kenyans who have sent me their messages, I want to reject the bill. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the chair of budget, Mr. Ndindi Nyoro, when he gave a raft of areas of budget cuts in case we do not approve this budget. Mr. Speaker, as we explain to the people on why the budget cuts, he may also need to explain to the people on how much was raised from the taxes, raised taxes. He may need to explain on the loans, foreign loans and the local loans that have been borrowed. We may need to explain the housing levy receipts. He may need also to explain to us how much has been disbursed for the Hustler Fund, as we also explain on why we are recommending the cuts. Mr. Speaker, I've also had a lot of talk on the Generation Z. Mr. Speaker, it is not about, I think they have missed the point. It is not about the paper. It is not about the bill that we are discussing. Mr. Speaker, I believe this is a reaction to the frustration of the people of Kenya on the high cost of living. Mr. Speaker, it's an act of frustration and the loss of jobs, and also the drastic reduction of their disposable income from the taxes. Mr. Speaker, we need to give them hope. Going back to the discussion of today, Mr. Speaker, on the budget and on the finance bill, I have noted that the committee met a lot of industry players, and many of them, if we are honest, rejected the bill with reasons. Mr. Speaker, the committee has attempted to make amendments which we have seen, but I believe it is not enough because I can still see a budget gap of 76 billion. Mr. Speaker, the recommendations that they have given to bridge this gap may not be sufficient and may have a ripple effect on the people of Kenya, because increasing the cost of the fuel maintenance levy will only
Hamisi Abdi Voi.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Nasimama kutoa mchango wangu kwa mswada huu wa fedha wa mwaka 2024. Kwanza kabisa nasema kama mwakilishi wa watu wa Voi, nimepata ujumbe mingi ambazo zinanihimiza, zinanisindikiza nisiunge mkono mswada huu, na mimi nakubaliana nayo. Na sababu za msingi ni kuwa mswada wenyewe ulivyotengezwa tangu awali si mzuri kwa uchumi, kwa wananchi, wawekezaji na kwa nchi kwa jumla, na nimeona nia na lengo ya kuhadaa wananchi, kwa sababu yale yaliyokuwa yakiuma sana tumeambiwa yataondolewa, lakini sababu za msingi za kuuliza kwa nini ilikuwa hapo kwa mwanzo. Na nichukue tu nafasi niseme, vijana wetu wameongea, wamejitokeza, na inahuzunisha, inafedhesha kuona kuwa maafisa wa polisi wamewafuata, wamewaghadhibu, wamewasumbua wakati wao wanaenda kulingana na katiba, hasa article ya 37 ambayo inawaruhusu wao kuweza kukutana, kuandamana na kupeana pia petition. Na ingekuwa uzuri kwa nchi hii tudumishe demokrasia na tuweze kuenda kistaarabu. Mheshimiwa Spika, utunzi wa sheria unatakana kuzingatia hali ya wananchi, na hata ukiangalia kwa Kiingereza huu mswada huu ni kuwa unarekebisha mswada mwingine, na la msingi ni kuwa tungefanya iwe rahisi. Malengo ya kukusanya ushuru hayakufikiwa, na hasa sababu kubwa ni kuwa hali ya uchumi imekuwa ngumu, wawekezaji wameondoka, kazi zimepotea, na mswada ungelenga aidha kuacha pale pale ama kupunguza yale yaliyokuwa kwa wakaza wananchi. Na kuna
time up. Lisa Chelule.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kunipatia hii nafasi pia nichangie kwa mjadala ya mswada ya fedha katika bunge hili. Ya kwanza Bwana Spika, nataka kuanza kwa kusema ninaunga mkono mswada huu ambaye imeletwa kwenye bunge huu tuongee kama wajumbe. Bwana Spika, tunaelewa kwamba tulikuwa na waziri wa fedha wiki iliyopita ama wiki mbili iliyopita, na yeye mwenyewe alitupatia taarifa ya mahitaji ya kila wizara, na aliguzia sana wizara ya elimu na akaguzia sana wizara ya agriculture. Sisi wote tunaelewa kwamba ni wa maana sana kusaidia wakulima ambaye ni wengi miongoni mwetu. Bwana Spika, naelewa kwamba katika agriculture tumeangalia kila sekta. Wakulima ambaye wanalima horticulture ama wakulima ya kufuga ng'ombe ya maziwa. Na nilifurahi sana sababu kuna pesa imetengwa ili wakulima ya maziwa wapate kujengewa mafactory ya kutengeneza maziwa yao. Hii ndio itapatia nafasi vijana waandikwe kazi na itapatia usaidizi kubwa sana kwa wakulima wetu. Bwana Spika, nataka kuongea juu ya wale vijana ambaye tunaelewa sisi wote kama wabunge kwamba walifanya maandamano na wakasema nataka kuandikwa kazi katika serikali kulingana na utaratibu ya serikali. Na pesa imewekwa katika wizara itaji, imewekwa katika wizara ya elimu ambaye walimu wengi wataandikwa kazi. Wale wamepatiwa kazi ya internship katika wizara mbalimbali watapatiwa nafasi ya kuandikwa kazi kikamilifu. Bwana Spika, tukiongea mambo ya fedha na tukiongea mambo ya hii mswada ambaye imeletwa ni kitu ya maana, because hakuna vile tunaweza sema leo tuko na hitaji katika serikali yetu na tuendelee kuomba pesa kutoka manchi zingine. Pesa ambayo tunapatiwa kwa riba ya juu, pesa ambayo watoto na watoto wetu watalipa. Ni vyema na ni njia mzuri sisi wote kama viongozi ya nchi hii tuwe na nia mzuri. Wengi tunaongea mambo ya barabara, tunaongea mambo ya maji, tunaongea mambo ya stima, na hizi zote ni maendeleo, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo nachukua nafasi kusema tumeletwa katika bunge hili tuongee juu ya majukumu yetu kama viongozi. Na majukumu yetu ni tuambie Wakenya ukweli ni nini inaendelea. Hakuna haja tunyamaze kama viongozi na baadaye tuchukue pesa katika manchi zingine ambaye tutatatua mashida zetu kama wananchi wa Kenya. Kwa hivyo ninasema hivi, Bwana Spika, ninaunga mkono mswada huu na niko kusimama kwa niaba ya walionichagua.
Finally, Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity just to add my voice on this matter, which has been the most controversial finance bill in Kenyan history, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to start thanking the Finance Committee for the meticulously and excellent job they have done so far. Because, Mr. Speaker, based on the circumstances, the 18 things they have dropped in this finance bill is not easy. This is a thing that could have actually caused what we call economic earthquake or economic crisis in our country, Mr. Speaker. I am thanking them because they have dropped the following proposals. One is motor vehicle tax, excise duty on telephone, internet and mobile banking, 16% VAT on solar, on supply of solar, and eco levy actually on some of the few items, and even the proposal to levy the capital gains on the transfer of the property. However, Mr. Speaker, based on all these 18 issues they address to the Kenyans, I still feel the mood in the country and even what we call the Finance Act of 2023, Kenyans have not recovered on all these issues, Mr. Speaker. And based on what I have been instructed by my voters, based on what Kenyans are doing at the moment, even now, going all over the street, I want to oppose this finance bill on that issue. Mr. Speaker, I think we can actually do a lot of things, and the reason why I'm opposing the finance bill, number one, is a proposal to increase the import declaration fee at a rate from 2.5% to 3%. And we know Kenya is a net importer on so many issues. Actually, 60% of what we consume in this country is imported. It means we are going to have a multiplier effect in this economy. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, was the increase on duty for gaming and betting. And nobody has spoken about this issue. Increasing it from 12.5% to 20%, Mr. Speaker. This is the only fund we are relying to take the sportsmen and other people to compete in international competition like the Olympics Games we are going to witness in France next month, Mr. Speaker. It's going to...
Thank you, Nguna. MP Brett. MP Brett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion, not the motion, the bill, finance bill, together with the proposals that the Finance Committee has recommended in their report. Mr. Speaker, we must come to an agreement as a House that we cannot propose one thing and do another thing. We did indeed made proposals as this House and passed the appropriation bill, allowing the Budget Committee to be able to appropriate the funds that we had thought are of essence and also of great concern to the people. Mr. Speaker, in accepting and agreeing to the appropriation bill, the monies that we had voted for the constituencies, the various projects that are within our constituencies, and the nation's development, we did therefore agree that we will be able to raise these revenues either through ordinary tax or the proposals that the Finance Committee are going to come for us to be able to fund these projects. I find it hypocritical for members to rise up here and say that they will reject the finance bill in totality, and also refusing to acknowledge that therefore it must be accompanied by reductions or some elimination of some of the projects and the expenditures that we had proposed. Mr. Speaker, having read through the appropriation bill, this bill had proposed 1 trillion shillings, close to 1 trillion shillings, on repayment of interest on debt. This in itself has been monies that were taken, loans that were taken by the previous governments combined, and we must be able to pay for these debts. We must be able to move forward as a nation by approving and acknowledging that as a nation we should be able to raise our own revenues by whatever means possible, but making sure that the most vulnerable of us are protected. I support this bill, Mr. Speaker, and the proposals because it makes provisions for the employment of the JSS interns, the 46,000 of them, that they will be able to be taken in as permanent and pensionable, Mr. Speaker. I also would want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, that TSC may consider the letters that they sent to the JSS interns who went on strike, demanding that they be employed for the purposes of them benefiting from these monies and these revenues that we are raising for their employment. For this, Mr. Speaker, I support with the amendments and the adoption of the report of the Finance Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mumias West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like all other colleagues of mine, we have also received messages from my constituents telling me to reject this bill. Mr. Speaker, on the outset, the bill as it is, I reject it because it carries a lot of things which are not affordable to ordinary Kenyans. However, Mr. Speaker, I can see that the Committee of Finance did public participation, and so many industries contributed to this. And there are reports, there are amendments that were suggested, which are, some of them are definitely positive. And we cannot shut our eyes on this type of issue. Because, Mr. Speaker, if the amendments come as they are proposed, then some of us will have to, I will have to support. There is this 16% on bread. If it's going to be dropped as suggested, then I have no issue with it. This transportation of sugar cane, if it is amended and dropped, my people will be happy about it. There's also VAT on financial services and foreign exchange and foreign trips, whereby you have issues with the passports if you are going to look for a job outside. It has also been considered for amendment. Amendments which will take place together with the amendments that we are going to receive. And Honorable Speaker, they have also dropped 2.5% of motor vehicle tax. And if that happens, we have no problem, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there's also this issue of employing junior secondary school teachers. This money, if it is available, we'll have no problem with that tax. And also vegetable oil tax. If the amendment is removing it, we have no issues, Honorable Speaker. I therefore wish to say that we are waiting for the amendments to come and we effect it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kiarao.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to air my views in regard to this Finance Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by reminding all of us that this is a house of debate. Honorable Speaker, I think it is our noble responsibility to articulate and look in with a microscopic eye all issues in front of us with the sole purpose of coming up with a data or a document which is favorable to our nation and the people who have sent us here. Honorable Speaker, I must say there is one issue I've been listening since yesterday to the various views by members, and I must say, Honorable Speaker, I'm one person who say the initial draft actually was very wanting. It had very many negative issues, but I must commend the Committee of Finance and National Planning for executing its mandate and fine-tuning this document. And more so, on the same note, I would want to commend the committee for listening to the people and acknowledging the importance of public participation, because most of the issues which were raised through the public participation have been addressed. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to say I come from an agricultural area. And just to point but a few, considering Nyandarua County, where I come from, there is one issue which had very adverse negative effect, which was in the initial draft, that is touching on the issue of potatoes, the eggs, and all those things have been removed since. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say, and I think this is very important to all the members who are here. Honorable Speaker, on the issue, I can see my time is off. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kilifi Women Rep. Women Rep Kilifi. Kama hayuko, oh. Give her the mic.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nizungumze kupinga mjadala huu wa fedha. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuelezea bunge hili kuwa pesa za bajeti zinaweza kupatikana tu kwa njia tatu: kutoza kodi wananchi, kuendea mikopo nje, au kupunguza bajeti ile ambayo imepangwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiona wale wananchi kule nje wanaandamana ni kwa sababu ya kutozwa kodi. Katika bajeti hii ilikuwa imeletwa hapa, yale makadirio ya kutoza kodi ndio umefanya saizi mimi naunga mkono wale wanaandamana kule Kilifi leo, kwa sababu waliona katika orodha ya utozwa ushuru, kutozwa ushuru mkate, kutozwa ushuru magari ya mwananchi wa Kenya wa kawaida. Mheshimiwa Spika, watu kama Ichungwa, kina Osoro, vijana wadogo hao wamefura kichwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, hawatumii magari siku hizi, wanatumia ndege chopa waende kwa kila mkutano. Ndio maana wameenda kusimama kusema magari yatozwe ushuru. Wananchi wako kule nje, kutozwa ushuru vyombo vya kupima saratani. Mheshimiwa Spika,
Honorable Mbeyu, there's a point of order. Yes, Karemba. Order. Karemba. Give to Karemba the...
Honorable Speaker, I want to rise on a standing order number 107, part F. I want to ask whether the honorable member is in order to refer to the Honorable Soro and his colleague as having a big-handed. I think that is very unparliamentary, and she should withdraw those remarks.
Honorable Mbeyu, I was consulting with a member, I didn't hear. If you say that, you are out of order, and you withdraw those unkind remarks to your colleagues.
Mheshimiwa Spika, sijajua amesema nini, lakini nitampa mfano tu. Nasema hawa wameweka kodi ya magari ya mwananchi wa kawaida kwa sababu saizi tunawaona wakitembea na ndege wakienda mikutano, na huu ni ukweli. Niko na ushahidi Mheshimiwa Spika. Wiki mbili zilizopita Mheshimiwa Ichungwa alishuka port na ndege. Niko na picha kwa simu yangu. Kwa hivyo hawezi kuweka kodi ya magari.
Yes,
ya pili Mheshimiwa Spika.
Order. Honorable Kagombe. Mupe Kagombe.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 107. And Mr. Speaker, we are creating a very bad precedent where you make a ruling on someone to withdraw a statement and they proceed to make contributions to this House as if you have not made a ruling. I beg, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Karemba stood here and he has pointed out issues that have been delivered to this House that are disorderly and outrightly false. She knows that she has contradicted.
You've made your point.
So please let her continue.
Mbeyu, I told you withdraw the remarks that are offensive against your colleagues. Now you proceed to say somebody landed somewhere with in an aircraft. Does that make somebody big-headed?
Yes.
Withdraw those remarks.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeondoa maneno hayo na nataka Mheshimiwa Kagombe pia apambane na hali yake kule kotini, atuache tuzungumze wananchi wa kawaida. Mheshimiwa Spika.
Order.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nizungumze.
Order. 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 Honorable Mbeyu, I've given you an opportunity to contribute to the finance bill. Kagombe is not in the finance bill. And you are out of... Can you take your seat? Don't be excited unnecessarily, because you are about number 150 member to contribute to this bill. And you've been sitting here seeing how members who are even more senior than yourself have been conducting themselves. Don't excite the House, don't get excited, contribute on the bill.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiona katika ile bajeti watu wakiandamana, vyombo vya kupima saratani katika hospitali yetu vinaenda kutozwa kodi. Yale mambo ambayo yaliwekwa katika bajeti hii, katika mswada huu ndio nayazungumzia. Wakituambia ati wametoa na tuiona amendment, Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima tuione leo hii kuwa imerekebishwa ndio wananchi wetu waweze kukubali. Mambo ya kuweza kuona stakabadhi za pesa to access KRA, to access financial status za watu wa Kenya ni mambo ya aibu. Watu wako na haki ya pesa zao na kuwa siri. Mheshimiwa Spika, mkate, mafuta, tozo ushuru ni aibu. Kamati ya bajeti, kamati ya finance.
Member for Lamu East.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia nafasi nami nipate fursa ya kuchangia. Naunga mkono mswada huu wa fedha. Bwana Spika, katika mswada huu wa fedha nina imani kwamba Lamu Mashariki itaunganishwa na Wakenya wengine, kwa sababu hivi sasa kutoka tupate uhuru mpaka sasa Lamu Mashariki iko kivyake, haijaunganishwa na Wakenya. Lamu Mashariki tunajua constituency yote, eneo bunge lote, hakuna hata inchi moja ya lami, hakuna hata inchi moja ya grid ya kitaifa. Pesa zikipatikana, watu wangu wa Lamu Mashariki wataunganishwa na Wakenya wengine. Tunajua kuunganishwa eneo bunge na eneo bunge lingine inaunganishwa na mtandao wa barabara, inaunganishwa na grid ya kitaifa. Sisi kwetu bado hatujapata grid ya kitaifa na wala barabara. Kama kwa Kenya na sisi Lamu Mashariki tumekuwa tukitoa ushuru na sehemu zingine maeneo bunge mengine yameendelea. Sasa basi tuendelee kutoa ushuru, tena tuendelee kutoa ushuru sana, na sisi Lamu Mashariki na sisi tupate haya maendeleo. Kwa hivyo kwa sababu hizo mimi naunga mkono kwa dhati, nikiwa na imani ya serikali hii kwamba ndio itatuunganisha sisi na Wakenya wengine. Bwana Spika, lazima tuwe wavumilivu na tufikirie Wakenya wengine. Kama nyinyi sehemu zingine zimeendelea na mumeshiba, sisi wengine bado tuna hamu na maendeleo hatujapata. Kwa hivyo kama nyinyi mko matown, muna barabara kila pahali, muna stima kila pahali, nyinyi mumeshiba. Kule kwetu tunasema wale wanaoshiba samli wanatoa miba. Sisi tuna njaa bado kwetu ya maendeleo, hatuna maendeleo. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi kupinga pesa ipatikane. Toeni ushuru, acheni mchezo. Kuna watu kule wengine wanaumia. Ushuru ndio kuendelea kwa nchi. Sisi tunavumilia. Kama mimi Lamu Mashariki siwezi kwetu haiwezekani interns wale walofuzu kwa walimu kufanya kazi kwetu, kwa sababu gharama za usafiri ni ghali kuliko salary. Lakini tumekubali walipwe ili Wakenya wengine waendelee. Sisi kwetu lazima waandikwe walimu, na walimu wale wanaandikwa permanent and pensionable ndio wanaweza kwenda kufanya kazi Lamu Mashariki. Kwa hivyo nataka hii pesa, shule zetu zingine hazijaona walimu kama chemistry teacher kutoka shule zijengwe. Sasa hii ndio serikali hii ina hope tupate walimu na
Koyo Onyango.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for finally recognizing me and giving me the opportunity. On the onset, I want to reject this proposal, and I want to implore my colleagues that budget making process is a job of this House, and we should never abdicate our responsibilities. We are in conversation with my colleagues the other side, and we all agreed that budget proposals were not good, they were unfair for our people. But somewhere, a meeting was arranged, and the leadership of this country and my colleagues met, and they agreed. And I am happy that they have made proposals to remove certain things. What I'm wondering, and I want to warn my colleagues, is that those things that are being removed, the government is going to circumlocute and bring them in other ways. And this budget is going to hurt the public, and the public outcry will reach you. I want to say so because I have not seen, they have not been pointed where the changes are going, where the money is going to come. But my fears have now been confirmed by a letter I saw this morning that came from the CS for Treasury. And they have been reinforced by the assertions by my colleague, the respected chairman of Budget Committee, who has come and read drafts of things that await us just in case we do not pass things the way they want. I want to say that these proposals are deceptive, and we need to stand firm and make sure the changes that are dangerous to the people we represent are not allowed. I want to repeat to this House the old adage that there is no taxation without representation. Where I sit, the people I represent, there is serious manufacturing, there is serious farming, there is serious business going on. Government, every taxation circle harvests a lot of money from already constituency through sugarcane farmers.
Yes, Koyo, there's a point of order from Honorable Mandazi.
Oh, thank you.
Mandazi, what is the point of order?
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. In the same way that Honorable Nsengu yesterday rose and requested your ruling on the fact that as members of Parliament who keyed in as early as 7 a.m. today, with all fairness, Mr. Speaker, we would want to request you again to rule today that those of us who keyed in, our cards should remain in for the afternoon session. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I thought Koyo was out of order, but he's not. When we rise in the next few minutes, leave your cards.
People need to be very patient. I've been queuing here since 10 o'clock yesterday, and I was here very early in the morning. But because of resilience, the Speaker has finally seen me and given me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind these people that my constituency charges a lot of money to the Treasury. But when it comes to development, real development they only see in the neighborhood. They did not know why real development was not taking part in their place until the Deputy President carelessly asserted that this country is led through shareholding, that we need to be a shareholder. So my constituents happen not to be shareholders, and they see elaborate electrification program in the neighborhood. We are at the epicenter of different constituencies. So they see roads that are meant for county government are being tarmacked all over in the neighborhood. When they have their own challenges, we have marauding floods every year that affect the constituency. When we ask for money, we are told there's still no budget, let us wait for money. But in the neighborhood, you see certain things happen. We want taxation that also comes with.
Members, before we rise, like we directed you this morning, we hope by 3:30 the mover will be called to reply. Make sure you have your electronic card for voting. I'm told the clerk had already circulated information so that we can be able to spend less time on voting and do other business. It matters not whether it's roll call or electronic card. Even that electronic voting is not a secret vote because it appears on the screen, it will be on Hansard, and everybody will know how you voted. So it matters not whether you are saying yes on the floor or no on the floor. An electronic vote for purposes of the House is not a secret vote. Order, honorable members, will you be upstanding? Order, be upstanding, Honorable Ngelechei. Honorable members, it's now 1:01 and the House stands adjourned until 2:30 this afternoon.